despite PoE being this complex game, I am missing synergy between skills. And most builds only use one skill to do damage. For example, Ice Crash or Earthquake. All you do is run around or jump around and just keep spamming your main skill. I'm not saying that it is bad, but I think it could be better. So with that in mind, I wanted to do a build that uses different skills for synergy. And this is not the final version of this build. It is still work in progress, but I'll probably leave it for later. First of all, I'm gonna talk about pros and cons and what can be improved. Then skill tree and items. Also, you can find timestamps in video description. The idea for this build came from Elementalist Node, Mastermind of Discord, and Elemental Equilibrium. So let's look at this Elementalist Node. If you have used Fire, Cold and Lightning skills in the past 10 seconds, then you get 25% penetration to those elements. And then there is Elemental Equilibrium. So with these two nodes, you can get 75% elemental penetration for single element. But for it to work properly, you need to hit enemy with different element each hit. It is hard to believe, but PoE does not have enough skills. At least not proper skills for it to work. So my initial goal was to use Flameblast, Casual Channeling, Ice Nova and Shock Nova, or Vortex instead of Ice Nova. So I would start channeling Flameblast, and then Ice Nova would trigger, and then followed by Shock Nova. Enemies would lose 50% fire resistance, and Flameblast would hit with another 25% fire penetration. On top of that, it would be a crit Flameblast, and it would also ignite enemies. But because of elemental equilibrium, enemies' fire resistances would be increased. But no worries, different element would hit enemy again and would lower fire resistances, increasing burning damage again. Also, cold skill would freeze enemies and lighting skill would shock enemies, increasing damage they take. But obviously against bosses you probably won't be shocking and freezing them. So that was the concept. However, Ice Nova and Shock Nova AoE is rather small now. Also, for some reason, Shock Nova kills my FPS. From 200 FPS to 30? What? So I had to replace them. So instead I'm using Glacial, Cascade and Ball Lightning. And this is far from perfect. Both of these skills hit multiple times, and only the first hit benefit from this mechanic. However, Glacial, Cascade and Ball Lightning sort of synergize each other. But then again, Flameblast always gets benefit from this mechanic. And Flameblast is the main skill that does the most damage. Right off the bat, this build is not very good for League start. You need at least 5 Link Walls Protector to generate power charges. The clear speed is not very great, but killing bosses is rather okay, considering my items. I hate trading and I like using what I can find, but I didn't really want to play solo self-found. So there is a lot of room for improvement. The only required items is Walls Protector. The rest items just focuses on life, resistances, and critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier. With 6 links you might have mana problems, so consider getting Elrond jewelry, actually 2 of them. I think I should be able to drop Clarity and use another curse, or maybe some aura. Now, why not Inquisitor? I mean, critical strikes ignore enemy resistances, and that can work too. However, with Inquisitor you can never reduce enemy resistances below 0. So basically there is no point doing elemental equilibrium with crit Inquisitor, and lowering enemy resistances below 0 gives huge damage boost. Now for the passive skill tree. The base of it is done, and it is for level 82. The rest should probably go into getting more life or maybe another curse. Talking about curses, I'm actually using Enfeeble, because this build does not really have proper defensive mechanic. No armor or evasion, no mind over matter, no over mitigation. So if I could solve this problem and replace Enfeeble with something like elemental weakness, my damage would increase dramatically. Important thing to note, Reflect is deaf. Well, not in all cases. If enemies only get hit by Glacial, Cascade and Ball Lightning, then it is quite okay. But even with Elementalist node Paragon of Calamity, if you hit enemy with fully charged Flameblast and it crits, you are dead. So because of that I refunded that point and instead took Liege of Primordial. And in addition to Stone Golem I started using Flame Golem. And because of this node, level 19 Flame Golem would actually give 80% increased fire damage and 40% increased cold and lightning damage. If I had better survivability, I would replace Stone Golem with Ice Golem for more crit chance and more cold damage. Now a bit more about items. I would like to try to use Doriana's Catalyst. It does not have very high critical strike chance, but it gives a lot of elemental damage and also very important, 0.2% elemental damage Liege's life. So this scepter might increase not only damage but also survivability. I'm gonna break my tongue trying to pronounce this survivability word. Now, another skills that I have also tested: Vortex, Arc, Storm Call, and Arctic Breath, but all of them have drawbacks that Glacial, Cascade and Lighting do not. So, final notes. While this build is not the strongest, or the most effective, or the fastest, or maybe even not the coolest, and not the cheapest, but it offers different playstyle, and I like playing different builds. So I may or may not update this build in the future. I'm already planning different build, and I don't really have a lot of time to play because of real life stuff. So if you have questions, I will definitely answer them, but I probably won't be changing this build, at least for now, unless someone has cheap and cool idea to improve this build. And extra final notes: if my voice does not annoy you and you kind of like this video, then I got more videos for you to watch. On the other hand, build videos from 2.5 have, well, broken passive skill tree, so maybe don't watch. But there are some funny ones, so maybe watch. Oh, you can also find me on Twitter, Woolfio_YT. Thanks for watching and see you soon.